Hey everyone, this is Sarah Stevens, and today I'm talking about informed consent. With permission, I'm able to use the private practice's informed consent that I work at, which I'm really thankful for because it's very well done. I think of informed consent like a hamburger. I think so in the ACA Code of Ethics, to better explain that, if you look in where it talks about Section B, it's going to show you that you need an introduction in your informed consent. And what we have at our private practice is just that. So I think that is the top of the hamburger bun. We mostly have social workers, but we have LISWCPs, LASWs, LPCs, LPCAs, LPCSs, because we've got supervisors and the limited independent social working counseling professionals that are also supervisors. So at the top of your hamburger bun, that's what you've got to include in your informed consent. You've got to let all of your clients know how you are a therapist, the education behind your therapy license, and your licensure number. And in your informed consent, you get down to the vegetables, the lettuce and the tomatoes and the toppings. You've got to have your office hours, your fee schedules. You've really got to let your clients know everything that there is in such a short document. I remember when I was first starting out in behavioral health, I do administration. I thought it was just so ridiculous that we had to have all of this. But now that I'm learning the clinician side of it, it's so important. And I think informed consents could be the size of a short book at this point. But anyway, then on to the beef of your hamburger, which is going to be respecting client rights, which is Section B1 of the ACA Code of Ethics. And you've got to also include the exceptions of the client's privacy, because as mandated reporters, everyone knows that if someone is a danger to themselves or others, or if you suspect abuse of any kind, then you've got to report it. You have to call law enforcement, you have to call DSS, and that's where the confidentiality is going to be broken. But it talks about that, like I said, in the ACA Code of Ethics in Section B. And you've got to include it in your informed consent, and ours is included in the middle. If you want to take a screenshot or just look at it, I've got the Code of Ethics, the sections written down. But informed consent has to talk about confidentiality, ethical standards, informed consent and what that means. And one of the examples that we have is counselors and social workers in this office are not available 24 hours a day. Voicemail and email are provided to leave non-emergency messages. And then we go in to talk about if you have an emergency and you're calling the practice, you really need to hang up and call 911. And that's kind of a safety part of your informed consent hamburger. You've got to make sure, because informed consent is for the safety of the client and the safety of the clinician. And you've got to make sure that everyone is safe when you're in the office and when you're out of the office. And if you're out of the office, letting them know in informed consent. And we also let them know on our voicemail, if it's an emergency, they need to call 911. But in your informed consent, you've also got to include what HIPAA talks about, disclosure of health information, and you've got to talk about your state laws. So we have, under your rights as counseling therapy client under HIPAA, which resonates with Section 407590 of our South Carolina laws. So we have that. And if you ever want to look that up, it looks like this. And I've got that circled if you're in South Carolina and you're looking up your state laws. But outside of our informed consent and between Code of Ethics and ACA Code of Ethics, and everything that the private practice explains, I wanted to also mention this really great article that talked about informed consent. and it's called the Changing Face of Clinical Trials, Informed Consent, and it's in the New England Journal of Medicine. But it talks about how your informed consent, and this is true of our practice as well, isn't just via paper. You're going to have clients that are signing informed consent electronically because of COVID and telehealth, not just, like I said, on paper and in the office. So forgive my very fast talking there. There's so much to the hamburger of informed consent that we have to talk about as counselors and future counselors or administrators like myself when dealing with and helping clients and clinicians in a private practice or public health setting. Thank you so much.